Hi guys, so welcome to this video. In this video, we'll be learning how to load all the data that you have in Excel into a MySQL server. Okay, so I have this spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet, which contains a lot of rows, around 400 entries. And let's try to get all this data into a MySQL server. Over there, we can put a lot of query into it and perform a lot of transactions. So that's going to make our life a lot more easier, right? And all through Python that we are going to do it. Okay, so let's open a Python file. I've already opened a Python file .py. So first thing that we need to do is we need to have a MySQL server installed on your system. I hope it's installed. So I've got one is installed. I've created a connection. The username is root. The local host is the host name, and the port is 3306. That's usually where MySQL runs. The other thing that you would need is MySQL connector. Why? Because this Python file needs a driver that can talk to MySQL server, and that driver is called MySQL connector. So I've already got it installed. So import MySQL dot connector. Once you install it, you are ready to talk to your SQL database. Okay, so first of all, let's create a connection. So mysql dot connector, let's call this driver, and it has a method called connect, and we have to pass certain values so that it can find our database. Okay, so first value that we need to find is the host name. The sequence doesn't matter. Host name is localhost, as I showed you. Then the username, for me the username is root, and then the password. So I'll enter the password now. So I've set the password, and this is the password that you set while creating the connection, and that's the same password that we need to pass. So now all the details are there, and it should be able to connect to our database. So let's print it. So if everything goes well, this will return us an object, a reference to an object. So address will be return of an object. So let's run this. Yes, so you can see the connection is good. Let's mess it a little. So what if I pass a wrong password? So see, you'll get a lot of errors. So yes, so all the details are given. So now what we need to do, we have already connected to our database, and that I can again show it to you in the SQL workbench. So let me log in and show database. So currently we have 6 databases, right? Let's create a new database, but before creating, let me show you what the data is all about. So this data is all about payment and transaction. So no more name of the donor who has donated, the date of transaction, the payment ID, name of the donor, donor ID, amount, and transaction. So we have total 6 fields. So let's name our database as what? Payment. That should be right? Payment. Okay, so how do we execute SQL command from Python? So this is something that we are going to learn over here. So first thing that we need to create is a cursor object. So let's create a cursor object. This is going to help us in executing our MySQL command. So this MyDB connection that we have returned, it has a cursor method which returns a cursor object. So now this will help us in executing MySQL command. So you'll write any SQL command. So how do we write a SQL command to create a database? We simply write create and then database, and then what do we write? The name of the database, right? So let's write the name of the database. For it's going to be payment. Now we need to execute this command. So the cursor object that we created, it has a method called execute, and pass on the SQL statement, and it should be nice. So okay, now let's run this function file. Okay, let's see if it created or not. So it should have one more database. Yes, payment. Now what we need to do is we need to pass another variable called database. We have already created one now. So our database name is going to be payment. Why? So that whatever SQL command that we are passing in this file, this is for this payment. So this connection is going to go to the database payment and then perform the operation. Otherwise, it would need Had it been some other database name, then it would have gone to some other database and then made the changes that we are writing, right? So all the changes, all the SQL command that we do, that's going to be for the payment database. Okay. So now what do we need to do? Now we need to create an SQL table. That's right. An SQL table needs to be created. So how do we create a table? So create table, and then we have to pass the table name. What, let it be payment. Okay, let it be caps, and then details, payment details, and then we need to pass the rows that needs to be there. Okay, so let it be payment ID, and then date of transaction, let it be dot, and then we have donor ID, then we can have donor name, then we can have amount, then we can have transaction ID. Okay. So one thing that we have missed is the data type of these values. So for payment, it's going to be int, payment ID is going to be int, DOTV is going to be of date, donor ID again we can have it int, and donor name it can be varchar, and let's have this 100 limit. Amount again it should be int, and transaction ID in our case is going to be a varchar. And as I can see, it's a very uh, it's the text is large, so let's set it 200. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to pass values. Okay, so values, the caps values, and then let's pass these formatters. So percentages, how many times, so there are 6 fields in total, we will need to pass it 6 times. That's it, we are done. Okay, now we'll need to create a tuple which is called value, and then we'll have to pass the values in it. Okay, sorry, so I messed it up a little. While creating the table, we need not pass the values, we have to do it while we are inserting it. So yeah, my bad, so I'll remove it. Luckily, uh, it's not a huge effort that got wasted. Okay, anyways, sorry about that. So uh, we have we are missing we are missing yes. So now I think everything is in place. Yes, everything looks to be in place, and now we can execute this SQL. Yes, so I guess the table has been created. Let's go and check it. So if you use our payment and then show tables, it should show tables. Yes, so we have payment details done. Good. So now what we need to do is we need to, now we'll need this file, and we'll iterate this file one by one, each row. Okay, the data, and then we'll save these into the table that we have created. Okay, so to do that, we'll download the CSV of this. So download CSV, and once it's downloaded, let's get it to desktop, change the name, just keep it something simple, payment. Okay, now what we need to do is we have downloaded this CSV, so we can use the CSV method. Okay, so that we have in Python. So let's import CSV, and after importing CSV, let's have the file name saved in a variable called file name, which is payment.csv. Yes, and now what we are going to do, we are going to open this file. So with open file name, and we are going to open it in read mode, and let's open it as CSV file. Okay, now first thing that we need to create is a CSV reader object. So CSV reader object needs to be created to read the file. So let's have the CSV reader. So CSV has a method csv.reader, sorry, and then pass the CSV file. So the CSV reader has been created. Now what we can do is we can have the first, this thing we are not interested in, right? We are not interested into this thing. Okay, we can get rid of this. So we can have CSV reader dot next, which gives us, sorry, the next function gives us the next row of the CSV reader object. Okay, so CSV reader has the entire CSV file in it, row by row. So next gives the next row. So first row that it's going to give is the header, and we are not interested in. We can store it in some variable. We do not need it, and then the pointer will shift. The pointer will shift to this. So our cursor for the CSV reader object will be over here. So we'll start from this row. Okay. So let's start iterating the CSV reader. So for I, or let's say for row in CSV reader, let's iterate. So for row, let me print this row for you. Okay, let me print how this row is going to look, and then let's just do it once. Let's get it commented. So the first row that it's returning is this. So it's an array, and the first element of the array is payment ID, and then we have DOT, and then we have donor ID, and then donor name, and then we have amount and this. Okay, so let's store this one by one. Let's have this open as a reference. Okay, I'll probably, okay. So this row, the first thing is going to be donor ID, sorry, payment ID. Rather have, let's have this. So let's see what all fields have. Select star from payment details. These are the fields that we have. So let's, the first field is payment ID, that is going to be row of 0, so the first element, and then we have DOT, which is going to have row of 1, and then we have donor ID, which is going to have row of 2, and then we have donor name, row of 3, and then we have amount, row of 4, and then we have transaction ID, row of 5. So let's store these values in these variables. So the name sounds pretty much logical. So okay, we have it over here. Good. So now once we have it, now what we'll need to do, we'll need to change certain things. uh, okay, so for us the payment ID was int, so we'll have to change it to int. Date was a date object, but it will be a string, so we'll need to change the date object into a string. To do that, we need to have date imported. So let's import date. So import date object, date time object. Okay, so we have imported this date time. Now we'll need to change it. So how do we change it? So where is this? Okay, so date time has a function, date time dot date time has a function. uh, it's called strp strip time, CRP time. Okay, and then you pass the row of 1, which is the date, the string date, and this string date is going to be converted into a date object, a Python date object. Okay, so how do we convert it? We'll have to pass a format in which we are passing the string. So the format in which we are passing the string is day, month, date, and year. So that's what we have to tell this function. So it's month slash date slash year. Okay, dot date will get as the date. So date is done. Donor ID again has to be int. Donor name, good. Donor amount again int. And now what we'll need to do is we'll need to have this SQL command which will insert into the table. So let's have this SQL command. So we'll need to insert into payment details, and this is, we have to get rid of the We have to get rid of these data types. Okay. Now we'll need to pass the values. Did I save it? Yes, I saved it. So the effort didn't get wasted. Yes. So now we'll pass the values, and values will be passed into value tuple. So let this tuple be this, and we can paste it. Yes. So this is the value that's going to be passed. Let's keep it small. Yes. And now we can execute this. We can execute this SQL, and we'll also need to pass the value. Let's see. Should for each row, it will what it will do is it will go one by one and it will pass these values and it should populate the database. Let's see if it works, and if there's an error, we'll see. Okay. So base with base 2500 invalid. Okay. So it says the payment ID, which is row 00. Okay, sorry. What it says is row 4, invalid literal. Okay, what's the problem? So amount. So let me check if it's going to be float. Will float work? And probably have an int. Let's see. Or is it for the all the values that we have double zeros? Yes, all the values we have double zeros. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's trim the last two, and then last three, in fact, dot 00, and then have it. And then it's there. Okay. So there's some error. Let's see what it is. At line number 2, you have another SQL syntax. Where is the error coming from? SQL top value. The exception that goes. Okay. Okay. Some some of this might be missing. Yes, I guess this was not needed. Yes. So it has populated. Let's see if we can see it, if it's populated or not. So no, it hasn't populated. Okay, let's see what the error is. There must be some error. Payment. Insert into payment details, payment ID, this and this, transaction ID for row and okay. Okay, so basically, whenever you insert it, my bad. Whenever you insert it, you have to commit it. So the connection object that you have to pass commit. If you don't commit it, nothing will be saved. Now I think it should work. Now if you see, now it has populated. So the you can see how much of data that we have. You can do anything over here, like you can pass queries like where, let's say, donor name donor name ends with what does it end with? Ends with, let's say, M. So it will give you all the names, entries which donor name end with him. So it's such powerful tool that you get from Excel. You are able to import it in SQL, MySQL server. And not only this, it has wider implication. You can use it in Django or some other platform, right, to create your database from Excel sheet. Sometimes what happens is some institution pass data in Excel sheet, and then it gets implemented through the web development team, website team that they implemented, and then the same method they use to put it in database. So thanks again for watching it. I hope it was helpful. Bye.